Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be creating a class-based component. So if you've been following on with some of the previous videos, we went through creating components, we went through creating functions within components, we added components to other components, and we also added a couple of buttons. In the past, what we've been using, for example, is a component that looks something like this here. So we've got the function keyword, and we've got our component, and it returns some JSX. That's the div and the paragraph in this case. And with our second component that we made, it's a little bit more complex, but it's still pretty simple. We've got a bit of styling up here. We've got a function that's called when a button is clicked, and we've got a paragraph and a button. And that's kind of it. That's all we've been using so far. But sometimes when you use components in React, you want to hold state. And state is just a way in which you can hold information and display it to the screen. Now, there's also another benefit of using class-based components, and one of them is the lifecycle method. So there's multiple lifecycle methods that you can use on your components. So you can go and call a lifecycle method before you go and render or display your component. Maybe you want to call an API and receive information, put that information in the state where you can then display it with your component or whatever. That's just an example. But today we're going to go and create a class-based component. So we've got our components folder here within our React application, and we're going to just go and create a new component. I'm going to call it my class component, and we'll put our .js extension at the end. So now that we've created our new file, we need to go and make a class-based component out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Google, and we're going to go and visit the React documentation. So if you just go and Google React docs or React documentation, you'll see this link here, reactjs.org. So if you go and click on that, this will tell you everything that you need to know about using React. So if we just go up here to the search bar and we type in whatever we're looking for, so in this case we want to go and create a class-based component, so we'll type class component, and what pops up? So we've got a function and we've got class components. So this is the one that we're familiar with, that we spoke about earlier on. We have the function, then we have the function name, and it returns some JSX. In this case, it's return hello with a prop name. So we want to go and do something like this. So if you go and look at these two and compare them, you can see that we don't use the function keyword. We actually use a class keyword instead. So that makes sense. It's a class-based component. It's not a function-based component. Then we have a name, similar to we would have a name with a function-based component. And then we go and extend this react.component. So we're extending some functionality that's built into React for us. So it's saving us from doing some work. And then we have render, and inside our render, then we have a return. And this is quite important to understand. With our function-based component, we just have a return, so we go and return some JSX. We do the same with our class-based component, but we also have this render method, and this render method is actually called before we go and display the information onto the screen. And you can do some things between the render method and the return, like for example, you can use vanilla JavaScript. You can console log things if you want to try and debug your application and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to just copy this and we're going to paste this into our Visual Studio. So we can do this like so. Now we don't want to call it welcome, we want to call it my class component. We can get rid of this bit here that's printing out or displaying the props, because we're not going to receive any prop into this class-based component, so we just leave hello there in the render method. So the next thing we want to do is we want to export this method. So similar in our function components, we can see we have export default and then whatever the name is. So we're just going to go and copy this, and we're going to go to our class-based component, and we're going to just change the name from my first component to my class component. And after we do this, we want to go and try and display this. So if I just go and run npm start, just to show you what's being displayed at the moment, we will start our server, and then it'll load up our web browser, and we can actually see what our React application looks like. So our development server has started up, and it's running on port 3000. This is just some work that we've done in earlier tutorials. So what you're looking at here is just basically boilerplate React setup code, and then we added this little component down here, and we also added this component up here with a button. But that's not important, because if you remember, when we created our class-based component, we had some JSX returning just the header hello, as you can see here, but we don't see hello anywhere on our screen here in our browser. So that's because we haven't implemented it yet, or we haven't added our class base component to any of the other components. So the one that we're going to add it to, we can add it to our app. So if we go to app.js, and then we can decide where we want to add it in a minute. But the first thing we need to do is we need to import it by saying import my class component from, and then the directory of where it's held. So we'd say // for the current directory. It's inside components, and then within components it's going to be called my class component. So now that we have that, we can go and copy this, and similar to the way that we've displayed the component with button in the previous React video, we can put this just we'll put it just after it. So just need to add in a / and a greater than sign and a less than sign at the beginning. We're currently getting an error, and the error is in our class component that we've just created. So if we go back to that, we can see that we've created our class. That's okay. But if you remember, when we extend, we are extending from react.component. Now, the problem here is we're using a piece of functionality or code in the React framework, but we haven't actually imported it into this file. So what we have to do is, similar to the way that we imported this file into our app.js up here using this statement here, we need to do the same in my class component, but what we need to import is this React component thing, so that this file knows exactly how to use a class component. So we can say import React, and the piece that we want from React is component, because that's what we're using, and we want to say this is coming from React. So React is all lowercase, and since we're doing this with the curly brackets and component, we're taking component out of React, we don't need to say react.component like this. So we can just save some code, and we can delete this and get rid of it. And now if we go and save this, we can see that we don't get any errors. It's compiled successfully. So hopefully now when we go to the web browser, we'll see hello being displayed somewhere on the screen. And so we can see hello being displayed under our button here. So that's what we were expecting to see. So I hope you have a better idea on how to use class-based components. In the next video, I'm going to introduce the idea of state and how we can use state in our class-based component, and we might go and create a button and create a little counter or something in our React application. But until then, if you like the video, give it a like, and if you want to see more future content, hit that subscribe button. Have a good day.